Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. Now, according to Venafi's latest research, 2/3 of companies already suspect they've been impacted by nation-state hackers. And Kevin Bocek believes that businesses need to be worried about the accelerating cyber threats posed by rival nations, and that cybersecurity has now become intertwined with geopolitics, especially with state-backed hackers from the likes of North Korea, China and Russia, etc., using cybercrime to advance their nation's wider political, economic and military goals. And there are so many big key findings in this report for me, such as 77% believe we're in a perpetual state of cyber war, and 82% believe geopolitics and cybersecurity are intrinsically linked. But I think there's also a lot to be hopeful for. So I want to try and tell the entire story today. Today's podcast is brought to you by our friends at Nextiva and their new Nextiva One system. Have you ever searched endlessly for the conversations thread that you've had with a client or co-worker, only to check 5 apps and still not have the information that you need to complete the task at hand? I'm sure you have, and unfortunately this is the case for many people in the workforce. But luckily, Nextiva One aims to end this painful process once and for all, with what they are calling threaded conversations. Threaded conversations let you see the entire call and messaging histories with others, regardless of the tool that you use to communicate, giving you the power to take back your workday and amaze your customers and team. So simplify your business today and get your Nextiva One communication system by simply visiting nextiva.com/techtalkdaily. So buckle up and hold on tight, because today Kevin Bocek is waiting for us at Windsor in the UK to talk about Venafi's latest research, the threat of geopolitical hacking, speed versus security, and also why there is still a reason to be hopeful too. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hey, Neil. So I am Kevin Bocek. I have the great fun and pleasure to work on the Venafi team as our VP of ecosystem and threat intelligence. At Venafi, we help out in the world with machine identities. Out there are 2 actors. There's people and machines. We use usernames, passwords, machines, like cloud services, applications, Kubernetes clusters. They all use machine identities. And that's what we do. We help make sure that, that is reliable, consistent, that business can go fast.
And if I was to take you back in time, can you back in time before the days of machine identities or even computers, can you remember where your passion for tech came from? What lit that spark in you? What put you on the path you're on today? Or ultimately, what's your origin story?
Yeah, well, the origin story probably starts with Santa and an Apple IIe under the tree. So that is mine, which should bring a lot of smile. I had the 128K on board. I even did have a tape recorder first, so not the disk drives. But so that's where it started. I grew up in a farm and, beautiful Virginia in the United States. So whether it was riding the tractor or harassing squirrels or my Apple IIe, the Apple IIe one, and that's what really I loved, spent loads of time with, and then got me interested, obviously, to where we are in this world, where machine identity, cybersecurity.
And of course, that path would lead you eventually to Venafi. And for people that are just hearing about you guys for the first time, can you just tell me a little bit more about the problems that you're solving with technology and what makes you a little bit different from other solutions out there?
Yeah. So, machine identities are everywhere as we're heading to use cloud services, as we've got more and more engineers building capabilities that are driving growth in the business. We're using more of these machine identities. We'll get to that some detail in a minute. But when you're using them, just like when you use human identities, there's a whole set of challenges. And we help our customers stop the business outages, because when machines can't talk to each other, things stop, whether that's going to the cash point, whether that's the baggage handling system, whether that's when you want to buy something online. If machines can't trust each other, they just stop. Outages. We help our customers get speed because these things are difficult. Trust me, if you ask a cybersecurity expert or an engineer, what would they rather do on the weekend, and you bring in the world something like a TLS certificate, I guarantee whatever else it is, mucking the stables, where the manure lives, I guarantee that's going to be more enjoyable than working with TLS certificates. So we help them get speed. And of course, we help prevent compromise. Adversaries are out there. They want to take on a trusted identity. They want to masquerade. And we've seen it. We'll talk about it. The prototype attack with Stuxnet. And from there on, we've seen really machine identities used as part of the attack plan, really often more and more to the future.
Love that. And to set the scene for today's conversation, obviously you're talking to me in Windsor in the UK. So can you tell me a little bit more about the threat of geopolitical hacking to the UK that you're seeing right now?
Well, we live in a world where money costs money these days.
Yeah.
We both have inflation, cost of living challenge. And of course, the money costs more, and especially in business, that affects us. So that's going to affect what we're going to invest in. Are we going to invest in more cybersecurity or not? Are we going to invest in trying to grow business? Or are we going to try and batten down the hatches and just become more efficient? That sets a little bit of the business side. And as the adversary out there sees the UK as a prime target, everything I hear these days is that actually the UK military has beyond amazing systems to both blow up pipelines and sink ships, which if it does, it's pretty damn good. So the adversary, though, is out there seeing that. So the UK is clearly in the sights, and not only from a nation state, but also then from the ecosystem that works with that nation state, because there are those out to profit and those out to damage, and they all sometimes can work together. So you put those together, that means, and cyber criminals too, then I should say, are squeezed because of both of those. Cost of living, inflation, they're getting the squeeze of that. If you think a lot of the things too, cyber criminals may not be making as much money or may not be able to use the money that they've got. So that means they've got the squeeze. So they're going to be looking for new ways, new opportunities to target, which might be then working with the nation state geopolitical threat actor or having a reason to do so. So all of that means whether it's a cyber criminal looking to profit or looking to target to disrupt or damage, there's just more and more reasons for them to do so.
And I think we should spare a moment to think about developers, because they seem to have the conundrum of either chasing speed versus security. So can you expand on what you're seeing around this?
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, the best developers are those that know how to use Control-C, Control-V, which is just fast.
Yeah.
And developers are there to write code, add new features fast. It's not an offense to say that they're not there to think about security. They're there to think about new features. Yeah. So that means that they become a target for attack. The mistakes that they make become an opportunity for attack. So whether it's, we've seen like leaving a TLS key or certificate out on a Git repo, or whether that means, the key that they're using to sign their code so that it runs everywhere gets stolen. These are ways that they're making mistakes because they're trying to go fast. Or I just heard too, a major airline, some systems stopped because they had embedded in their code a TLS certificate. That wouldn't be a surprise to many who were developed apps before. We should be doing that, but that's reality. So all of those things, so they're going fast. I like to think about it as you pick your favorite Formula One team. Most of them, of course, actually really are English Formula One teams. And you know what? You're the engineer. You're there to design to go fast, but also, finish the race, stay secure. So that's why I think in cybersecurity, that's our job, which is pretty damn fun these days. And we're gotta help engineers go fast, help bring them the control C, control V, so that they don't go and try and make it up. So anyway, the attackers know all of that. And we see this playing out whether, again, what's being exposed on a GitHub repo, an application stopping working, or we're seeing malware showing up that's signed by someone else's code signing certificate. These are all real attacks that are happening every day.
And one of the things that put you on my radar was after reading that you believe that because CIOs often have limited visibility into the number of machine identities on their networks, enterprises are going to start seeing a sharp increase in outages and security breaches. Sounds quite daunting, but can you expand on that too?
Well, God forbid we should rely on the CIO knowing where all their machine identities are. Then we got a problem.
Yeah.
And of course, but what really surprised me, though, is that they were so aware of both the number, that over 200,000, which will seem like a big number maybe to many in the audience. But when you think about the TLS certificates, the SSH keys, code signing certificates, the API keys, these are everywhere. So CIOs actually, they do know something. And of course, too, it's not because they don't know that the number is growing. Developers are creating apps that use more and more. It's just built in, whether that's a cloud service or a Kubernetes cluster, or just a load balancer. It's just required these days to use something like a machine identity, like a TLS certificate. So that number is growing. So I guess it didn't surprise me that number is growing, but it would surprise me that they're aware of. So, but what that says, though, is the CIO, though, is getting awareness that, wow, this is becoming a problem, that this growth, this huge explosion creates the opportunity for an outage or for us to go slower. You run the Amazon team, you run the data center team, and you're doing things completely different. And in a day when money costs money, that I can't make that justification to the CFO or the board. So I think that brings an opportunity then for whether you're a cybersecurity professional or a CIO to create essentially a control plane. And that's the thing, a control plane, we've used them in networks. We now need to apply them to things like machine identity or to drive common set of services. Whether you're in the cloud or in the data center, we do it the same.
Now, according to Venafi's latest research, I also read that 2/3 of companies already suspect that they've been impacted by nation-state hackers. And we are living in a period of uncertainty and global conflict right now. So can you expand on what you uncovered here in the research?
Yeah, I think that was really interesting, too, how quickly organizations have adapted their strategies as a result of conflict. I've been with CISOs. I remember immediately the week right after war in Ukraine broke out, and they were having with their board and their CEOs discussions about business continuity and cybersecurity planning that they had not been having. So it was actually very refreshing to see, I think, the honesty in the survey, the number that had said, yes, go figure, we believe we've been part of attack, because so many nation state attacks spill over. I mean, look at, even again, I mentioned before Stuxnet. Stuxnet targeted Iranian nuclear centrifuges. But how many organizations, though, definitely not in Iran and definitely not using nuclear centrifuges, had the impact from Stuxnet? Many. So that's where a nation state attack just spills over. And it's great that there is that awareness. What I would hope, though, is that awareness then at the board and the managing director, CEO becomes action. Because now you need to say, hey, one of our top 3 operating risks, I don't care whether you're a high street retailer, a commercial bank, logistics company, one of our top 3 business risks, just like getting customers, getting money in the door, is also cyber. So that's what now the outcome of this risk that everyone has in many ways been a target of, or been impacted by, I should say, a nation state attack. They've changed their posture. Now we need to say it's also one of the top 3 business risks too.
And I think your passion and interest for the subject and your work really shines through today. And I suspect you live and breathe it, and you've almost seen it all, right? But did anything surprise you in this research?
Yeah, the problem is when you live and breathe it, you only breathe that air, which means like the real air outside, you don't breathe. There's the Greek word skotoma, which is basically imagine just like a horse with blinders. Is what you get, which I think, we live and breathe this. We see these attacks. We can see the geopolitical. It's kind of like dominoes. We can start to see them fall. I think what it did surprise me, though, that the number of organizations that had started to change, which I think was about 2/3, had started to change their practices because of the war. That did surprise me. Not that there was the awareness, but that started to change their practices, because most of us, most businesses don't operate, in the theater of war. So that though was encouraging for me, which I think there's a lot of great signs to the future. It's one of the things, like in cybersecurity, it can sound all doom and gloom. Yeah. It's not. Actually, we're headed to a safer world to the future. More threats, but safer.
And I'm glad you said just that, because I think if any of us switch on the television or doom scroll our way down our smartphone, we do see nothing but conflict, uncertainty, and, as you said, doom and gloom. So to end on a positive note, what makes you hopeful about the future?
Wow. I mean, really hopeful. I mean, out of all challenges, as we've seen in history, lead to new innovation, new opportunity. So whether it's the economic challenges we face, it's the geopolitical, the cyber attacker threats, these are all creating new innovations. We are going to be using more and more cloud services. That's fact. That means we won't have to worry about data centers anymore as cybersecurity professionals. We worry about applications and identity. That's what we've been talking about for like 20 years. Identity now matters. We figured that out with customers. Next, it comes to actually then machines. That is really exciting from a cybersecurity professional, because now we can say what's good or bad, friend or foe. We also know, too, that the economic challenges, again, are going to drive efficiencies. We're going to be driving more and more automation. So taking, again, the human work where we've had error, where we've had the opportunity for an attacker to seek an advantage, that's going to be going too. So I think all of that gives us a backdrop, in addition to now that we've got a recognition because of the geopolitical risks that, wow, we have to take cyber more and more serious. All of that tells me that in a cybersecurity world, whether that's operating in the cloud, whether that's smart devices, smart manufacturing, that we're going to be safer to the future. And that's exciting.
Incredibly exciting. And I know how incredibly busy you are too, so I cannot thank you enough for giving up your time to share your insights with us today. And maybe there's a small way I can thank you for your time today. And that Absolutely. Is that some of the biggest names in business, VC funding and tech have either been guests or maybe even listened to this podcast. So is there a person that you'd love to have a private breakfast or lunch with, and why? And they might just hear this, so we can send it out into the universe and see what happens. But who would you choose? Yeah,
it's interesting. In technology, I used to work in a basement. Many of us have been there, in a data center. So oftentimes we just focus on the bits and bytes, but also I love to see then a technology leader who talks about these types of geopolitical risks that our managing directors and board are thinking about. So Alex Karp, who's the CEO of Palantir, a bit of a controversial character because of the customers that use Palantir software. I really enjoy listening to him. May not disagree with him always. He can create controversy, but I love to learn from that. Check out Alex Karp, CEO of Palantir. See if you agree, disagree. No matter what, he talks about software and geopolitical risk, and then you can fill in the middle in cyber. That's my guidance for the listeners.
Love that. Well, I'll send that out into the ether. Let's see what we can manifest together.
That breakfast here in Windsor. Yeah, we can meet down at the castle.
Well, before I let you go, for anyone listening wanting to dig a little bit deeper on that report, contact your team or just find out more information about what you're doing at Venafi, what's the best starting point for everything?
At venafi.com. And there you can go and find the research, and you can try out machine identity management immediately. You can immediately sign up and start your trial right now. You can learn, get some intelligence, and then share more.
Excellent. Well, I'll add those links to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. I'd love chatting with you today. Yes, about why businesses need to be worried about accelerating cyber threats posed by rival nations, and the fact that cybersecurity has become intertwined with geopolitics, etc. But also, I think more important than anything, why there's so much room to be hopeful for the future and where we're heading. And I think we need that message more than ever right now. So thanks for sharing that with me today.
Thank you.
Well, Kevin just had so much great positive energy, and I think that's so important, especially in this time of global conflict, economic uncertainty, etc. Yes, we've got challenges right now, but it's where we're heading to, why we need to be hopeful, the difference that we can all make, etc. And Kevin was a real breath of fresh air, but I'd love to hear more about your thoughts. You've heard from me, you've heard from Kevin today, but what do you think about the current climate, especially around cybersecurity, where we're heading, and what you're seeing out there in the business and threat landscape? As always, simply email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. And my website is techblogwriter.co.uk if you'd like to work with me, or just have a look around over 2,200 interviews that we've done. But that's it for today. It's time for me to get out of here. So a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.